Welcome, everybody. I'm David Cerns, the co-CEO here at Haley Marketing, and welcome to 2026. Hope your new year is off to a terrific start. Um, Today, I'm actually really excited to bring to you this Lunch with Haley webinar on building your growth engine. It is absolutely no secret that it's been a tough time in our industry, and it's going on 3 years that it has been very, very hard to sell. So I'm going to ask you some questions about that in just a minute. But as we get started and as we go through today's webinar, I'm going to ask you just to think about the kind of staffing you do, to think about your local market, or if you sell in an industry, if you're selling in a lot wider region or nationally, just think about your target market. And I want you to think about that perspective, not just as, hey, I want to sell them staffing and recruiting services, but what's going on in their world? How are they being impacted? And how does what's going on in their world impact their workforce strategies, impact their hiring, impact their use of temporary staffing? And the reason we're going to think about that is as we get into some of the topics that are in today's webinar, it really matters to have a strong understanding of your customers and what's going on in their world. And I'll explain that more as we go. But that stated, let's jump in. All right. So you guys know this one. The definition of insanity is, and I can't hear you, but I know you're saying it right now, doing the same things over and over and expecting a different result. And here's a different definition of insanity. The road to staffing success is make more calls. That's been the road to success for decades. Many of you know I'm here today because I grew up in a family-run staffing business, and I can still hear in my ears my father. And what business was slow, his advice to the team, make more calls. After all, sales is really just a function, right? It's a function of how many sendouts you have. And that's a function of how many job orders did I take and how many candidates did I interview. Essentially, and at the top of the funnel, if I call more clients and I call more candidates and I put more activity in the top of the funnel, I will get more out of the bottom of the funnel and placements made. And while Dad was right, that does work. It did work back then. It does work today. It's increasingly difficult to make that work. Why? Because the staffing buying process has fundamentally changed over the past couple of years. COVID really impacted how people buy staffing services. So we see AI every day to the point we're sick of seeing it, or you love seeing it, depending on your perspective. But AI has also come in our clients' offices. Technology-driven procurement. They're using technology to find you, to evaluate you. They're using technology to read your RFP responses. They're using technology to screen every candidate coming in the door. AI is involved in the buying process. AI is involved in how people find you online now. And so we got to take that into account. Our buyers, the clients, have higher expectations. They said, well, unemployment is up. And so if I need a candidate, you need to be able to provide me the exact fit candidate yesterday. So they have sometimes unrealistic expectations about how fast you can fill orders and the efficiency of your process, but they're expecting you to be better and better every single day, putting more pressure on your team to deliver quality, speed, all with a high level of service. Oh, yeah, and for a great price. There's more focus on specialization and value. Staffing users, the end employers, they want companies that specialize in what they do, either in the roles that they need or every bit as likely the industry they're in, people who really understand their challenges. And they want to see the value, not just in this is the lowest price, the lowest markup. Well, that is value for some, but they want to know that you've done the math to say, hey, are you giving us the best value in terms of labor costs per hour or labor costs per unit of service delivered. They want to know that you know the math because they're looking at the math to say, are we running our staffing function as profitably as we can run it? They're making data-driven purchasing decisions, looking at past behaviors, evaluating vendors. They're putting you under a microscope to figure out if they want to work with you, and they're making it very hard for new vendors to get in. You probably are seeing there's more people involved in the buying process. So now I'm not just selling to HR, I'm not just selling to a hiring manager. I could have in the room HR, a hiring manager, a higher level department manager, a controller, a CFO. If it's a small business, I might have a plant manager, a general manager, or even the president in the room. Why? Because everybody wants to know that they are getting great value out of a staffing partner. And that's the good thing is they do want people that can be real partners. There's an opportunity to position yourself as more than a vendor, but it's harder because everybody you're selling to sees your value in a different way. The value HR sees is different than the value the hiring manager sees, which is different than the value the CFO sees. I'm not loving this one, but we're seeing more companies DIYing their staffing with direct sourcing or saying, hey, we're not going to use temps, we're going to direct hire. In fact, if you look at the labor force penetration rate of staffing into the general workforce, it used to be about 3% of all employees were contingent workers. That's back down to just over 1.5%. In other words, even though there may be more companies out there to sell to, we've lost almost 50% of the workforce that's working in contingent roles. Why did that happen? I've listened to staffing industry analysts talk about this, and there's a variety of factors. But a big one is when labor markets were really tight and we were having to try to find anybody we could put onto an assignment to fill the role, that actually broke trust with a lot of the employers. They're saying, you know what, rather than going to temps, we're going to wait longer and we're going to hire. We're going to use temp to hire. We're going to direct hire for roles. We'll use less contingent staffing. We're seeing more competition from staffing platforms. It started with companies like Upwork that you could source technical people and graphics people and marketing people. And it expanded to other platforms that you could hire anybody now online, and everybody has been trying to be the Uber of staffing. The good thing is nobody's quite gotten there yet, but every little bit that staffing platforms grow is an increased threat to traditional staffing companies. Same with companies that are providing offshore and nearshore recruiting services and saying, hey, we can provide a global workforce for many roles where the workers don't need to be in person. Bottom line, and I'm not telling anything new, it's a lot harder to sell. Now, here's a question. If you wouldn't mind going to the chat window and just, I want to know what you think 2026 is going to look like. And here's the possible answers. How much harder will staffing be? I think it's going to be number one, a lot harder. Number two, a little harder. Number three, about the same. Number four, I think it's going to be easier. And number five, I think it'll be a lot easier. Which do you think it's going to be this year? A lot harder, very hard, harder. Nobody's giving me easier yet. A lot harder, at least one about the same. That's our best so far. Harder, a little harder. All right. Yeah, everyone's kind of in alignment. So we're not facing a year when it's going to get easier. So again, if the definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again, well, now it's time for us to start to think differently. And that means we need to change the way we approach sales and marketing, sales, marketing, and recruiting. So our talk for today is about creating a staffing growth system. And it's, sort of plain English, a more strategic, more complete way to drive sales. I always like to think about the analogy of a spider's web. If you think about the strands in a spider web, any one strand, that piece of silk that goes from point A to point B is really weak. It can't do much. It couldn't catch a fly for the spider. But when the spider weaves the web together, now the web becomes very strong. It catches the flies. And when it comes to your sales in 2026, what we're about to do is a 7-part system to weave that web so that you will catch the attention and the interest of more staffing buyers, and you'll deepen relationships with current clients, and you'll find new opportunities with former clients. So we're going to go through this diagram. I'm not going to leave it on screen and walk through it, but it's the 7 parts of creating a staffing growth engine. Don't worry, don't try to write it down. Yes, this is available in the deck that you can download at lunchwithhaley.com if you have not already downloaded it. But we're going to go through these piece by piece. And I mentioned there's 7 steps. So step 1 is about building a foundation. So before I can go out to sell, I really need messaging that sells. And the biggest challenge I think that staffing companies face is you're in an industry with 25,000 companies. And no matter what market you're in, you've got dozens, if not hundreds, of local competitors who fundamentally the services are very, very similar. So if your competitor is doing what you do, how you do it, with the same raw materials, the labor market that's input, well, how am I going to differentiate my business? How am I going to effectively sell? And so in building your foundation, you want to create messaging that really stands out. And so when we talk about marketing strategy and we show people how sales and marketing works, we very often show people this little pyramid. And so right now in this slide, we're doing that light blue layer that says messaging. So messaging, as you can see, sits on top of your company's core values, your mission, even your vision for the future. If you think about why you're in business, what problem are you solving for the world? What are you better at doing than anybody else on planet Earth? That's part of your mission. And the values, what do you stand for as an organization? Every company has different core values. Sometimes companies overlap, but what makes you truly unique is the foundation of who you are. And what you want to do is take that mission, vision, and values and turn it into messaging that talks about number 1, positioning. So positioning means where are we in the market versus everybody else? So I use a couple of analogies when I talk about positioning. The first is I want you to think back to Thanksgiving, and dessert comes out, and there's a pie that's brought out on the table. Maybe pumpkin, maybe apple, whatever your favorite is. That pie is going to get cut into pieces, and one of those pieces is yours. So when you think about positioning, you're thinking about the piece of the pie that you want to own. Maybe you want the biggest slice. Maybe you want the slice that's got the best crust. Maybe you want the apple and not the pumpkin. Positioning is defining the segment of the market that's all yours. And by definition, when you do that, you're also defining what you're not, what you're willing to give up. And a hard thing for many staffing companies is that last part, what am I willing to give up? Because the more tightly you define your positioning, the easier it is to own your slice of the pie. The broader you make it, the harder it is to stand out. So that's the first thing for positioning, is thinking about that slice of the pie. The second is I want you to think about a box of Cheerios. So if I told you right now, hey, I want you to leave this webinar, I want you to head on out and go get me a box of Cheerios, what would you do? Now, most of you would know immediately, I'm going to get in the car, I'm going to go to the grocery store, I'm going to wander into the grocery store, and I'm going to go to the cereal aisle, and I'm going to look for a box. And in your mind, you're probably picturing a yellow box with black type. But I didn't tell you Cheerios was a cereal. I didn't tell you cereal's in a cereal aisle. I didn't tell you Cheerios comes in a yellow box. So that picture that's in your mind and the aisle that you know that it's in, that's also positioning. It's also branding. But what General Mills has done is, in your mind, they already own shelf space. Cheerios is in your mind. You know the category of their product. It's a cereal. You know where that category is found in the cereal aisle, and you know what their packaging looks like. But how about your staffing company? Are you positioned as a staffing company? Are you in that aisle with all the other staffing companies? Is that the aisle you want to be in? Or are you in a different aisle? Maybe you're in a workforce solutions aisle. Maybe you're in a project solutions aisle. Maybe you're in a statement of work aisle. Maybe you're in a consulting aisle. Maybe you're in a online platform aisle. The thing you want to think about first in positioning is, what aisle do we want to be seen in? Because if I'm in an aisle that everybody knows, like staffing, that's great. I don't have to teach them about the aisle. They know it. So that actually makes the first part of my selling easier. They understand what I do. But I also have to recognize I'm then simultaneously selling against their preconceived notions of that aisle. Do they think the staffing aisle is a beautiful aisle filled with quality people and quality companies? Great, I want to be in that aisle. Or do they have doubts about staffing? And now, if I'm in that aisle, I have to overcome their doubts and differentiate myself from their preconceived notions. So, with positioning, think about the aisle you want to be in, the category you want to be in. Think about the slice of the pie, the market you want to own, and say to this slice of the pie, this is the aisle I'm in. This is what I own. And this is what we look like. This is our yellow box. Then you're going to think about key differentiators. So differentiators, those are all the attributes about your company that make you stand out. It's your service, it's your years of experience, it's your industry expertise, it's your technology, it's your service delivery process. It's how you sell, it's how you recruit, it's your access to talent. All of those things could be differentiators. And what you're looking for is what are the 3 to 5 things that really you're the awesome at, you're the best at, that also are very important to your client. If you have 5 people and 100 years of experience, that's not a key differentiator. In fact, I would say it's not a differentiator at all. You're looking for the attributes of your service that really matter to your clients. And that very often comes down to problems you know how to solve, expertise that you have, something that you know or you can do that other people can't replicate. It may be tied to technology and how you implement it. It may be tied to your use of AI and how efficient you are. What are the differentiators that make you stand out? And I'm going to add a couple more words to your ideal customers. And you only need 3 to 5. Sometimes you only need one, but you need something that really makes you stand out, that makes you not just different, but more valuable. And that's where the next bullet is. It's your value proposition. What's the outcome I'm promising? What's my brand promise to the customer? Yes, I've got these 3 to 5 things that make me different, but here's why they matter to you, the customer. And again, if I'm selling to multiple layers, here's why they matter to you in HR. Here's why they matter to you as a CEO. Here's why they matter to you as a controller. You need to think about your value to each customer audience you serve, because your messaging, have different variations of your messaging for different buyers. And then you tie this all together with a nice core story. And so you may have heard me talk in the past about something called the Challenger framework from the Challenger sale. And the idea to the Challenger sale is you are challenging your buyer's preconceived notions. So if they think, hey, staffing is just for last minute fill-ins, you may be able to show them no, why staffing really is a strategic business function. If their preconceived notion is staffing is expensive and it's low quality, you may want to challenge them to show what companies do differently to consistently get high quality talent and use staffing to drive cost out of their business. A core story is just that, a short narrative, something that it's a little longer than an elevator pitch because it's not just about your company. It's about the value. It's about first the problems people have that they might not even be aware of, and the solutions you can offer. And in the core story, you don't even get to talking about yourself till the very end of the story. The core story is about how your client can solve their problems using your services in new ways as a tool. So messaging is these 4 things tied together. And when you build that messaging framework, now you can integrate it into everything you do, your website, your selling, your collateral materials, even your recruiting, to make your sales process differentiated. Once you have it, it's going to go into training first. Teach our team the words we use so that people are talking about us the same way. Make sure it's in our website. So our website doesn't look like everybody else's, that if I didn't see the logo, our site would totally stand out from everybody else because it's about our message, our value, but mostly it's about our customers and what we do for them. Our collateral materials. I see a lot of people who have gotten away from using sales collateral, but collateral materials are a great way to ensure that every single salesperson is sharing your messaging the way you want it shared. And collateral can mean brochures and sell sheets. It can also mean PowerPoint decks. It can also mean videos. It can mean any sort of pre-developed communication tool that your team is using to share with others. So there's not limited to format. And you can think about, I need collateral that may fit different segments of the audience. So our team knows how to talk to HR and talk to a direct hiring manager and talk to a CFO. Or if we're working in different industry segments, we can show how we have expertise in each of those industry segments. Automations, almost everybody's using some form of automation platform. Is the messaging really integrated with the automations, or are we use the playbooks that we got from the automation company and now we sound even more like everybody else? Outreach scripts, once the sales team is trained, do we have word tracks that help them get started so that they're using these challenger frameworks, so that they're using our positioning and our key differentiators and our value proposition? And actually, you probably use it in the opposite order. We're using our value proposition, looking at the problems we solve, then our key differentiators, then our positioning. All right, so once we have that, that's part one, is all that messaging. And that's a fair amount of work to come up with all of that. But once you know all of that, now we're going to look at our website. And this is maybe the single biggest area right now where I see opportunity just being lost. And what happens is we're losing sales leads. The data on B2B websites is pretty scary. Now, this isn't staffing specific. It's all B2B websites. But the data shows that about 98% of people who visit your website, this is employers, job seekers, B2B, it's customers. They come to a website, they don't do anything to self-identify. They don't call you. They don't fill out a contact us form. They don't request an employee. They just look at your site and leave unidentified. We're losing tremendous opportunity by having websites that are not optimized for response. We want to turn as many of those website visitors as we can into leads. Now, we're not going to get everybody, but we certainly can do better than 2% conversions. So we think about drivers. Who's coming to your site and why are they coming? Are they coming because they're actively investigating us? Maybe. Are they coming because an AI synopsis led them to our website or a Google search did? Once they get to our site, are we doing things that have hooks that make offers very quickly, persuade people to take action? And are we designing our site in such a way that we're minimizing the barriers, the things that drive people away? So we want to think about, do we have very deliberate planned conversion paths? Meaning, hey, I know what we want people to do when they come to our website, and we have a way to get them from point A to point B that's really easy for the visitor. Do we have primary and secondary calls to action? I'll tell you more about that in just a minute. Do we have intelligent page layouts? People read it in either a Z pattern, across, down, across, or an F pattern. They kind of go across, down a little bit, partially across, down a little bit. So that's how people look at a website. So is my content designed to catch your eye at the right place using sizes of imagery, colors, placement on the page to get you to follow the content? So I'm getting you to the actions I want you to take. There actually is an art and a science to how pages get laid out to make people read them. Are we giving people multiple ways to respond? Some people might fill out a form. Some people might click a link. Some people are going to want to call you. Some people might want to start a chat with a bot on your website. Some people might want a text conversation, particularly candidates. Are we giving them ways to respond that are the most convenient for the visitor? Are we building trust using a combination of data and social proof, showing, hey, we told you what our value proposition is, and here's why you should believe it. Here's our reviews. Here's what our clients have to say. Here's relevant case studies. Here's our performance metrics for our other clients. So if I'm looking at your website, it's overwhelmingly positive proof that you can deliver on the value you're promising. Oh, and one other thing that most companies won't do in staffing, but you see it in almost every other industry, is people put the logos of their clients on their website. Why? Because that's such a big trust builder. It shows the kinds of companies you work with. It shows that people trust you. It's easy for people to figure it out just by looking at a logo. Now, a mistake people make is they may only put logos of really big companies on there, which is fine if that's your target. But you really want the logos of your ideal customers on your website. So other people coming to your website say, hey, we're like them. Look, they're working with a company just like ours. You want pre-sale and self-service content. We're going to get into a whole section later called buyer enablement, where we'll cover that. I want to be able to provide instant response and ongoing engagement. So I've got really good thank you pages, autoresponders, follow-up automation, so that every lead gets a follow-up starting from the minute they hit the submit button. And am I making offers people can't refuse? This is the primary calls to action and secondary calls to action. So a primary call to action is close to the sale. It's the most important thing we want people to do. Request an employee, contact us. So what you want to do with your team is brainstorm all of the things that would be great calls to action. I've got a few examples on screen. Secondary calls to action are less threatening. There's less emotional risk, meaning I may not be ready to talk to a salesperson or a recruiter quite yet, but I still want to engage with this company. And maybe you're offering them something they can download, they can watch, a podcast they can listen to. Maybe you're offering them a free tool or educational content. And the idea here is we're starting to build relationships, we're starting to create conversation, but most importantly, we're getting contact information so we can continue to nurture the relationship. And we're doing it in a way so that if they're not ready for that primary call to action, the closest to the sales stuff, there's something else that they can do. And part of your conversion passes for employers, for job seekers, I've got those primary and secondary calls to action throughout the website. If you are interested in having us look at your website and actually tell you how well you're doing in terms of this whole conversion rate optimization stuff, take down this website URL, haleymarketing.com/website review. And we will be more than happy to go look at your site. We have actually a 30-point review that we do. It's free. And we'll tell you what we think of your site and give you some feedback. It's not a sales pitch. It's literally giving you feedback on what you can improve on your site, so you know where there are opportunities to increase your conversions. And again, it's free. Go visit that URL and we'll be happy to help you out. All right, our next step, sales enablement. Such marketing speak today. But sales enablement basically is, how do we help our team sell more? How do we help them expand their reach and increase their productivity? And so selling, it's no secret, is hard. So we want to give them ways to improve their process, improve their tools, and strengthen their training so we can accelerate their impact. So the idea is we're gonna talk about creating a better process. So that's probably the most important thing. The traditional staffing sales process, I'm laughing, thinking about my dad's sales process back in the day when new sales reps arrived, was to hand them a sales book and say, go. Not a great sales process, but he wanted them making calls. And that was back in the day, people would go through yellow pages. But what we want to think about is strategically, what are the goals we have? How much are we trying to grow the business? How many new clients do we need? Who are our best clients? We want to research those clients so we know them better than they know themselves. We have really detailed personas of the individuals we're talking to and profiles of the target industries. We want to build creative that talks to those specific people, not about staffing, but about what's going on in their world, in their industry, in their role. We want to then reach out through multiple channels of communication to see how do we get to people, because some people may respond to an email, some to a call, some to a LinkedIn message, some to a text. We don't know. So we want to use as many different outreach channels as we can in tandem. And then we want to monitor how are we doing so that we can then go back and revisit our outreach plan and improve our process and make it better and better, and it becomes a flywheel. And so we talk about things called integrated direct marketing, using multiple channels of communication in a systematic process for outreach. So the salespeople know exactly what we do with every new prospect, when they call, and what they're talking about in that first call. We're doing omni-channel marketing, so we have the same message going out to people through multiple channels. So everywhere that your ideal prospect looks, they're seeing you. That's that spirally strategic surrounding your clients and your prospect, telephone, social media, and we're going to get to SEO and other ways that you can make sure people find you. You're using sales frameworks. I mentioned the challenger sale as being one framework, but you want to have a process that you're using for how you approach selling so that your team has a defined methodology. Because when they have a defined methodology they're using and they're consistently sticking to a proven process, they're going to be more successful. I'm a big fan of AI powered coaching and role practice. So, whether you outsource this to one of the staffing industry sales consultants, or you go into ChatGPT yourself and you say, hey, I want to build my own role practice tool, and you let the AI walk you through how to build that, you can build a really good role practice tool for your team to use, build it and save it as your own custom GPT. And now your team can do practice against different types of staffing buyers and practice selling different scenarios. You want to give your team better tools. So I mentioned the sales collateral. What would help them in their sales process? What objections do they get stuck on? What problems do they need to look like an expert when they're talking to a prospect? What capabilities of your business do they need to show off? So I want to arm them with those capabilities overviews, shell sheets about either specific services you sell or problems you solve or industries you serve, and case studies that prove value. You may want explainer videos. If you're doing something that's a conceptual sale, it's hard sometimes for people to get it from a verbal description. So have a professional video made that you can share that explains your unique approach to staffing, maybe your approach to how you vet candidates or how you onboard or how you work with new clients, something that sets you apart, something that's part of your key differentiation. Having a CRM and automation platform. Everybody has an ATS in staffing, but surprisingly few companies have a separate CRM system that has an automation platform. A lot of companies use HubSpot. That's a fantastic one. It's very pricey if you're using all the marketing tools. There are less expensive options out there, but you want to have a system that organizes your sales activities, lets you view your pipeline at a glance, and lets you automate communications. You want lead tracking software so you can see who's coming to our website. And I can get real-time alerts when companies I'm looking to sell to are on our site. I want to use video in email. Many people don't. In fact, most don't. But video email can get 25% more response than plain email. So that's really just recording a video, and some platforms will give you a little animated GIF that appears in the email, but it may just be a link. Hey, I recorded this email for you. It's just 1 minute long, but I think it will be really important. Here's why. We're finding that email is a great way to warm cold leads, to present proposals, allow you to sell asynchronously, present quarterly business reviews, do the video, share the video, then have the follow-up conversation. Proposal platforms, having a system that makes it very quick and very easy for your team to turn out a professional proposal, a professional RFP response. We use one called Better Proposal, PandaDoc. We were using Better Proposals, but there's a lot of them out there that allow you to automate the proposal process. It's also a great way to see performance on your sales team because you can see how many proposals are going out and what's closing. And market data and insights. Whether you're using companies like Lightcast, you're using Indeed data, you want to make sure you're paying attention to what's going on in your local market and then use that to educate your clients and show them things like why they need to pay more in this market if they want quality talent, or use data to show them how they really can lower their cost of labor by using more contingent staffing, not less. The idea is we're trying to help your sales team have more efficiency and impact. The integrated direct marketing, it's a systematic process. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 that you follow with every new lead. You can use it for client upsells and cross sells. You can use it to re-engage former clients or dormant clients. You can go after placed candidates and say, hey, it's been 3 years since we put you in this job. What's new with you? Maybe they're a hiring manager now, or maybe they're looking to make a move. And you can use it for cold prospect outreach to warm the prospect before you call, to reinforce your messaging. And if you listen to any of the staffing industry sales trainers, they're going to tell you it's 12 to 16 touches to a cold prospect to get a chance to have a call. I know I was actually just listening to our podcast, and Brad Wiley and Brad Smith were chatting about this exact data point. And Brad Smith commented that he had just seen a stat that it wasn't 12 to 16, but it's 72 touches before a first sales appointment. Now, a lot of those are actually what they call no click. They're not really visiting your website or they're not really clicking on it, but they may see you in social media. They may see you in some other website. They may see you in a Google AI summary. They may see your email. But it takes all of these touches to get people to be familiar with you. And that familiarity breeds trust, and it makes people interested in knowing more about what you can offer to them. Also, account-based marketing. If you're going after bigger accounts, you know you're going to face multiple buyers, well, start by going after all those buyers, but tailoring your message to that specific company and then the role of each buyer in that organization. So we use a model, you may have heard me talk about it before, called ADA. That's what I'm doing with direct marketing. Before I can sell to you, I have to get your attention or I have to create awareness. Before I can tell you what we're good at, I have to get you interested. That's that challenger's framework I mentioned before. I have to be showing you the problems you may not even be aware of that we can help you solve as a staffing partner. I have to get you to think differently about staffing as a tool. Then I can create desire. Here's why you're going to want to work with us. Here's our key differentiators. Here's our unique value proposition. And then we're going to get you to take the action, which is let's have the sales appointment. And then as a salesperson, as a selling organization, you get to do your magic and close the deal. All right, on to number 4, buyer enablement. So Eric Gregg, who many of you I'm sure know, CEO with Clearly Rated, I saw him at a presentation not that long ago, last fall, and he said something that just rung in my ears. He said, by the time a prospect sits down with your salesperson, sits down with you if you're selling, they are 54% of the way through the sales process already. Now, I'm a fan of a guy named Marcus Sheridan. He's an author. He wrote a book called They Ask You Answer and another one recently called Endless Customers. He said in B2B selling, it's not 54%. Buyers are 80% of the way through the sales process. So whether it's 54 or 80%, the reality is your customers, the employers, are doing a lot of homework before they ever agree to meet with you. And if they're not pre-sold by meeting number 1, your chances of closing the sale are very low. So now we need this whole category of content called buyer enablement. So it's helping prospects buy the way they want to buy. So it's content that educates. We're teaching people not maybe the 101s of staffing, but more like the graduate level course of how they can solve problems using staffing and a staffing company as a partner, as a tool to get things done. It's giving them self-service tools so they can go to your website and start answering questions themselves. If you've ever shopped for a car and you went to a website like Edmunds, you can get prices, you can compare models, you can do all kinds of things to help you make the purchase. Well, guess what? Your clients and prospective clients, they want to do the same thing with staffing services. Where can they go and easily make comparisons? Where can they find out about costs? They don't want to get a proposal to see what you charge. They would love to just go to your website and see what's your pricing model. And before I ever talk to you, do I know you're going to be in the ballpark for what we need? They want to look at reviews. And they want an easy place to see how are you reviewed and why did you get good or bad reviews on Glassdoor or Indeed or Google reviews. They want to know about the problems that they're likely to have working with your company or working with the services you offer. They want to know that you've already thought through all those problems. So the self-service tools are thinking through how can I give people calculators, surveys, ebooks, how-to guides, checklists, things that they can use to simplify buying staffing services. I mentioned it once before, I'll repeat it here. Part of buyer enablement is the proof of value. It's the data. So they can look at case studies, they can analyze the data that a procurement manager would be proud of because it shows how you're driving value, real measurable results. And then social proof, the testimonials, the reviews. things that show that people who work with you like working with you. And you also want to have that reviews that are both recent, because Google gives more credence to recent, but you want them from a variety of customers so you can show the different industries you serve and the different roles you've worked with. So you need a very proactive approach to reputation management, getting those reviews from all of your happy clients and candidates. Some content needs. I mentioned these already. It's called the big five topics: cost and price, problems you solve or problems that can happen with your services, versus and comparisons. How do you stack up against somebody else? Why would I use temp versus temp to hire versus direct hire? Why would I go nearshore, offshore, or work onshore? Why would I hire myself or work with a staffing company? Those are examples of comparison kind of content, things people want to know. They want to read your reviews, the good, the bad, and the ugly. They want to see it. And if it's all just 5 star, they don't believe it. So it's okay to let some things get through. What they really want to see is when something goes wrong, how did you respond? And they want to know who's best in class. They want to see, and this is where it can be really tough for people. They actually want to see on your website a comparison of you against your competitors. And most people won't have the guts to do that. But that's what people are looking for. So if it's not on your website and it's on somebody else's website, they're going to go to that website to find it. And then there's something called the Selling 7 videos. This is part of Mark Sheridan's book. But these are different videos you want to have to explain some of those big five topics, to explain the things people want. So how do you approach cost and pricing? Make a video about it. Show your model. The 80% frequently asked questions. Ask your salespeople, what are the questions we get asked over and over and over again? And let's provide on our website in a video answers to the things that are coming up 80% of the time. Specific products and services. If you got solutions, make a video. This is the explainer video to show what you can do and to show the data points of the value it provides. Every time you have any sort of a campaign with a landing page, you want to have a video on that landing page that reiterates whatever you're offering. Why a video? Because some people are going to want to read the text on the landing page, but some people, particularly in today's world, they just want to watch a quick video. Customer journey videos. Show what it's like to be a customer. Allow your prospects to put themselves in the shoes of a customer so they can really see what it's like. And I think on the candidate side, this is even more important because many candidates don't have a lot of experience working with staffing agencies. And so they need to see what it's going to be like and what they go through and how you support them. Bios of your team members. And we're very much in a remote world. I mean, you're seeing me through a little box on Zoom. But having a nice introduction with a video that you can share in an email, you can share on your website, you can share on social media is a great way to humanize your selling efforts, humanize your recruiting, and make your firm be more likable, a company people more want to work with. And last one is the claims we make. Every company makes promises. They have a brand promise of the value you provide. The claims we make video is about proving you can deliver. Because claims, if you ask a staffing buyer, you ask an HR manager, they're going to say, oh my gosh, we've heard it all before. We had 100 companies call us last week. We heard every pitch under the moon. The claims you make video is where you're not making a pitch. You're demonstrating. It's like a case study. You're showing how you do things differently. This is show and tell. Here's how we do things differently. Here's a client of ours that we interviewed on camera. Here's the people who are leaders in our organization. Here's the people on the front lines in our organization talking about how we do things. You're demystifying your service delivery in a way that builds a ton of trust because you're being authentic and transparent. All right. Now we're getting on to some of the stuff that our team loves a lot. Employer attraction. This is your digital marketing, getting your ideal clients to find you. So we want them not just to find us, but to reach out. So SEO and today AIO. I'm not going to try to do justice to this whole topic. I know our lunch with Haley a couple of months ago, we had Brad and Sean get online and talk about specifically how searches have changed. And if you want to be relevant in today's world, you need to change your strategy so you show up in AI answers and AI summaries. And there's a game plan for how you do that. It involves creating content. And if you've abandoned blogging because you said it didn't do anything for us, now this is the time you're going to want to revisit it, because if you're not creating content to keep your company relevant, you are going to become more and more invisible because of what AI is doing to how people look for companies and look for information. Paid advertising. Let's not wait for them to find us. Let's go after them. So whether it's Google, social sites, industry websites, and publication, do we have an advertising strategy to get our company, to get our offers, maybe our secondary offers, maybe our primary offers, but to get our offers in front of our ideal clients in a consistent and repeated way so that we can figure out, what does it cost to generate a top of funnel lead? What does it cost to generate a mid funnel lead? What does it cost then to convert that lead so we can see what's the cost of getting a customer? Are we doing some sort of thought leadership? Now, you don't have to be a thought leader. You just have to be a great content sharer. So some people's preferred mechanism for doing this is going to be YouTube. They like making videos. Other people hate getting on camera. Some people might like speaking and doing a podcast. Some people may just love being on LinkedIn and sharing stuff on social media or doing LinkedIn Live. Some people might want to do it in person at a conference. The more you can educate the market, and thought leadership means you could be creating your own ideas. You could be using that challenger framework to challenge people's beliefs, or maybe you're just summarizing other ideas that you see, and you're bringing value to your clients by making it easier for them to get the information they need. However you approach thought leadership, it is a key component to people finding you is producing this content. And when we get to nurturing, it's also critical for our nurturing component. And then retargeting and re-engagement. It's another form of advertising. So once somebody visits our site, once they come, we want to get them to come back. So we're going to use a type of advertising through Google, through social media, to keep our company visible, top of mind, to reinforce our positioning, reinforce our value proposition, reinforce our offers, and get people to come back, because somebody who comes back is more than twice as likely to place a job order with you or to apply to a job. Few important rules about this whole thing called employer attraction. It's about education, not selling. If your content that you're producing is a bunch of sales pitches, it will drive people away. You don't want sales pitches on social. You don't want sales pitches in your blog. Doesn't mean you can't incorporate a sales pitch, or particularly those secondary calls to action, into your content, but the primary purpose should not be to sell. And we get pushed by a lot of clients of, well, we really want this article to be more about us. It's like, no, the content you're producing is about your customer, their challenges, their wants, their needs, their interests. If it's about you, that's not their primary subject of interest. You know, as I'm sure you know, everybody's favorite subject is themselves. And in business, if I want to attract a company to us, I have to talk about their company. I want to provide new perspectives. That's that challenger framework. This is interesting. If you share really high level, strategic, powerful information, it tends not to get as much of a response as when you do tactical, the sky is falling, but here's 3 things you can do about kinds of information. So particularly if HR is a primary audience, when you use stuff that's scary and you give them very practical tips to a very specific thing, they love it. When you give them big picture HR strategy, you'll get some HR leaders that like it, but by and large, you won't get the level of response you do when you're tactical. Content means more than articles. So think about checklists, calculators, things that are interactive, things that add value, things that are tools people can use. Don't expect instant results. Content is a long game. Employer attraction is a long game. But it's like making investments in a bank account. If you keep putting money into your bank account or your 401k and it compounds over time and you get more and more value out of it, if you wait to start doing it, it's hard to catch up. But if you're constantly investing in your education, in your thought leadership, in the value-added information you share, it builds over time. And if you're now starting to do it through multiple channels because you're getting good at it, you're building that stronger and stronger spider web to attract your ideal clients. You also want to think about segmenting your audience based maybe on the industry they're in or the role of the buyer. So you're creating this employer attraction content for different industries, different types of buyers. So they're finding relevant information. If you're like, well, David, I don't know what the heck we would talk about. I would just say after today's webinar, go to your sales team and say, for the next 2 weeks, I want you just to make a list of every question a prospect or a current client asks you. They can be tactical questions about our services, they can be big picture questions about the industry, but write down every question. And the more you start to know the questions your clients are asking, that's the kind of content you can write about, you can produce videos about, because that's the stuff they're going to look for online. And they're going to find you if you're producing it, or they'll find a competitor if you're not and the competitor is. And this is where you can sell. You can include an offer in every piece of content. I have a friend in the marketing world, not in staffing, but he was here to visit a couple weeks ago, and I was talking about our content marketing, and he admonished me. He said, "David," he goes, "you give away too many free ideas without ever selling." I'm like, "Yeah, but that's kind of who we are." And Joe said, look, you don't have to do a hard pitch, but if you're going to put the time and effort into creating a piece of content, think about something related you can offer every time. Something that takes a person a little deeper, adds a little more value, because you want every content to drive some sort of a response. So I actually really like that advice. So without being sales pitchy, you'll see more offers in our content. And then think through the conversion path. If I'm attracting somebody to something on the website, what do I want them to do next? So often we think about everybody comes to our website from the home page and then goes from there. But the reality is, lots of people enter your website through different doorways. It may be through a job, a blog post, a services page. So look at every blog post like it's its own homepage. What would someone do next? Am I driving them to the action I want them to take, or am I making it easy to find the information they might want? And repetition is essential. You may get bored with saying the same things over and over and over again because you're hearing it all the time, but your prospects aren't. So repeating messages is very important to prospects, to existing clients, repeating it through different channels, repeating it through saying the same thing 3 times, 3 different ways. That was a piece of advice from a great sales trainer I had years ago. But repetition is essential because in advertising, there's this adage that somebody has to see an ad 21 times till they remember it. Well, in content marketing, they have to see the same ideas repeatedly till they start to stick. And you may have heard some business coach somewhere tell you, if you're talking to your team, you got to repeat what you say 7 times till they get it. Think about your clients like they're part of your team. If I want them to get an idea, if I want them to get my value, I probably have to repeat it at least 7 times. And then lastly here, think about distribution. Who can help you get the word out? So are there people that already have an audience of the clients you want to sell to? And if so, can you produce content, video, audio, text for their website, their newsletter, their blog, their beyond a guest on their podcast, but who can help you get the word out because they already have a stage filled with an audience containing your ideal customers? Now, we've been talking a lot about SEO and AIO, and if you missed Sean's presentation, he has given me permission to repeat an offer he made, which is Sean is an SEO wizard. That I don't know how else to say it. Get your phone out and take a picture of this QR code, and it will go to a chance to book a quick meeting with Sean where he'll talk to you about your website, and then he'll be able to do an assessment to show you how to improve that SEO and a little bit more about what AIO is all about so that as technology is changing the internet, you're not falling behind. All right, on to our last 2 steps. Step 6, nurturing. Gotta be at the right place at the right time, and nurturing is how we do that to stay top of mind. So we're consistently soft selling. If we think about all the content we talked about in the last section, nurturing is just another delivery vehicle. It's about creating branded content, educate and add value, reinforce your value proposition, deepen relationships, build trust, supplement your sales calls, give your team a reason to make more calls. And what you're thinking about is at least once a month, if not more often, I'm doing something to stay in touch with every client, every prospect, even every candidate. I'm doing a mix of educating, positioning, and relationship building. I'm not hard selling, I'm soft selling. I'm teaching. I'm challenging their preconceived notions. I'm sharing case studies. I'm doing things to build trust. And anytime I send something out for nurturing, this is my sales team can use that as follow-up call. Oh, did you read our latest newsletter? Did you see this article on our website? Oh, we just published this blog. I want to share it with you. So in selling right now, it's really tough to figure out what do I do to go back to that prospect who said, no, we're not using another staffing vendor. No, we're not hiring. Nurturing content is the gateway, the door opener that gives you something to go back and talk about that leads to a very different kind of conversation than the check-in call. So I said it a minute ago, but this is about creating some sort of a branded publication. You can choose a format that you like. Most common would be an email newsletter, maybe a podcast or a YouTube channel, or maybe even a print newsletter or a magazine. And I'm going to plan a content strategy, content that educates, a little bit of content that sells by educating. I'm going to focus on the issues that matter most to our client. It's not about staffing, it's about what's going on in their world. I'm integrating lots of those primary and secondary calls to action in my nurturing, driving a response at the right time. And then I'm going to integrate it into the sales process, using those topics as conversation starters, using them as drop-offs or leave behinds after calls, using digital materials as part of follow-up to say, hey, we talked about X, and here's some great information from our company. We've done this before. And our last step, 7, this is sort of the multiplier, the amplifier. It accelerates response and ensures consistency. So automation, whether you're using a Sense, a Bullhorn automation, a HubSpot, it's about amplifying your impact and ensuring consistent outreach. So both an ATS and CRM. You want to have both platforms that have automation capabilities so you can automate your sales funnel, automate those outbound touches. You can have ATS sequences. We talked about some of these before. You can have cold outreach sequences. You can do website automation, things like autoresponders and post-download sequences. You can use social media. There are tools out there to do LinkedIn outreach and social paid advertising engagement with text messaging. Just to wrap it up, final thought. 2026 is not the year of make more calls. It's not just about pushing harder. Yes, we're all going to have to push a little bit harder in different ways, but we really want to think about how to create that staffing growth engine. And you can go home from today's webinar and you can go through an assessment. Where are you today? Where are you in your messaging? Do you have your clear positioning, differentiators, value proposition, and core story? How about your website? Do you have primary and secondary calls to action and clear conversion paths? Sales enablements. Do you have the right process and tools to help your team be as productive, efficient, and impactful as they can be? Do you have stuff for buyer enablement so it's self-service? People could get to the point they're ready to buy from you before they have that first call. Are you doing things for employer attraction so people are finding you? And this can be both online and in the real world. The SEO, AIO, paid advertising, social media, retargeting. Are you doing things to get found? Do you have a game plan for nurturing, the branded publication, something that keeps you top of mind, consistently adds value, consistently strengthens your positioning, and gives your salespeople a reason to call? And are you using automation platforms to ensure consistency, to accelerate response and make sure no prospect, no lead ever gets forgotten, and to provide a more personalized service sales experience? And if you need this all in one graphic, download our PowerPoint deck because this one picture basically is a complete recap of creating your growth engine and everything that you can put together to think about strategic targeting, systematic outreach, multi-channel engagement, optimized conversion paths, and that long-term perspective that you're going to need to drive sales in 2026 and beyond. If you need help, that's what we're here to do. I hope you found the last hour really valuable. I hope you're taking home some great ideas. But if you're not sure where to start, if you need help, that's why we exist. This is a big year for Haley Marketing. This is the start of our 30th year of serving the staffing industry. August will be our 30th birthday. So we are more than happy to share our experience, our expertise, provide ideas. Even if you just need someone to brainstorm with, please reach out. And next month, I hope you will come back and join us. We're going to actually dig into one of the things we touched on today about your sales funnel and how to look at smarter prospecting, nurturing, and sales follow-up when we're looking at a variety of technologies and process changes to help you make your sales even more productive. All right, I just want to say thank you from me and all of us at Haley Marketing. I really appreciate your time to attend today's Lunch with Haley event. Please reach out if there's anything we can do, and we'll look forward to seeing you again in just a few weeks at our next Lunch with Haley event. Have a great day.